So the sign said no fires. It didn't say road closed, so I'm going past that sign. Windshield wipers seem like they are pretty worn out. I should probably replace them. Never been down this road before, so I'm exploring. My GPS is extremely helpful. It says, driving on unpaved road. Very useful. Speed down at about 20 miles an hour. I don't know who else is up here. I don't want to hit someone coming the other way. It's always kind of questionable if you have a MVA on a unpaved road, what insurance will do. Will they cover it? Will they make you pay the deductible and then cover your vehicle, or will the other person's insurance cover anything? You know, big questions. So those blue diamonds on the trees are indicative that this is a cross-country ski area for people that ski and snowshoe in the wintertime. And they can also be used to denote snowmobiling trails. I'm pretty sure this is a winter use area up here, so this would be more likely a ski trail. It's pretty steep for cross-country skiing. And if you're from somewhere that is very popular or populous, no, they don't do not plow or groom the trails here. Now this one I'm a little bit less enthusiastic about. The road's a little more torn up. I mean, my vehicle can handle this. I just don't want to drive in a place I'm not supposed to, is all. It's apparent that this gets quite muddy when it gets really wet. As I said before, we've had rain, but it has been almost non-existent. You didn't even get enough to really measure it. I don't know, maybe we did get a 1/4 inch. It didn't rain very long, it didn't rain very hard, but it did rain. I think I just drove through a cow pie. It like rained just enough that the ground isn't dusty anymore, but it's not turning into mud either. Someone did come up here a few times though, and it was quite muddy, hence the deep, deep, deep ruts. Actually, this is starting to get muddy here. Service has been coming through here and clearing out some of the brush. I'm going to take a pit stop, so I'll be right back. Alright, welcome back to exploring Southern Oregon's roads. I am continuing where I just stopped to take a pit stop there. We're actually living up to the channel name today by exploring. Blue sign down at the bottom noted that this is a loop, so I'm expecting to kind of get spit back out where I went in eventually. I also decided to go down the rougher road section first because I didn't want to have to turn around near the end and go around back. But this road's actually really not that bad right now. However, I am not coming up here again until it's dried out. And is this an intersection? Yes. Yes, it is. And it's not the one that I just went through. quite steep. I'm actually going back towards the road. I'm hoping that this will connect me back to the loop. Also, just you know, I didn't actually look at the maps before I came out here, so I'm really flying blind on this. No idea where any of this stuff goes. Because that's the fun way to do it. Again, these piles of wood, dead trees, logs, etc. These are all courtesy of the Forest Service. They go through the forest and they do what is called forest management. Since this is a winter recreation area, they have nice roads and trails and stuff up here that they can use pretty easily. Ah. Is this where that blue sign is? Nope. This goes back towards the main road. Yeah, but every spring, the end of spring, they go through and they cut down all of the dead wood and they collect stuff off the ground and they move it all into big piles. And then they let it dry out during the summertime. And then once it's rained and the fire danger goes from like a spark will burn the state down to, you know, normal or moderate, they'll wait for a good rain to be forecast and then they will come up and they will burn all of the piles that they've made. Oh, I know where I am now. It's pretty simple once you get lost how to get unlost up here. Is you just go down, if you're going uphill when you got lost, then just go downhill and eventually you'll wind up where you started, hopefully. I'm pretty sure this road only has one inlet-outlet area, so see there was some fire there. Probably someone had a campfire or lightning struck a tree and it burned some of the bark. Another trick that I will use that I'm not using right now because stupidity is when I do explore like this, I'll only do one direction turn. Like if I come up on a fork in the road, I'll only go right. And then that way, if you get lost or you decide you're done and you want to go home, you just go back and you take left turns. Another method that I use is I'll go out and I'll only go through a few forks in the road, and then I'll turn around and go home, and I'll come back out another time and drive down the same way I was. And do that until I recognize it, and then I'll start pushing out further and further. But this is a, you know, winter use area, so not sure that would work out here. Maps would probably be a smarter idea, though. I'm not gonna check, but I'm pretty sure I don't have cell access up here. No signal. I kind of lied. I have been up here once before, but well, I'll show you guys where I went. That's just tight on that road there. guys are in panic mode right now, getting their little winter stashes together. Actually, I think I've made it all the way back out to the... Nope. So last time I was up here, I took this turn. Nope. I'm back at the loop start. Okay, now I know where I'm at. Yeah, last time I was here, I didn't come up this road at all. I turned left way up ahead, and I had a bad time, which is why I didn't go that way this time. But I want to see how bad it is now that it's... it was raining heavily, and it was all very muddy up here. And now it's... If you were to take a shovel and dig down a couple inches, it would be dry. There's just no moisture in the soil. And that hasn't given it time to turn this dirt and clay into mud. And as you can see, those diamond markers are on both sides of the tree. So you can't assume that it's telling you you're going towards or away from the start. So you can't blindly follow those. I mean, you could, but it might be a bad time. Audio quality is better now when I'm off-road, because it's terrible on the road. Something in the driveline is humming in it. It's not audible in the vehicle, except very, very, very slightly, but the camera picks it up because it's transmitting that vibration directly through the chassis into the glass that the camera's mount is suctioned onto. So... And I've been looking for a mount adapter that would let me isolate that vibration, but I can't really find anything out of the box to do that. I'm going to have to do a project and DIY a mount adapter. I might buy another GoPro mount kit. The little interchangeable universal pieces. More of those, and I might cut one and glue some or epoxy even some hard rubber pieces to it, and then glue it back together with those in the middle. And they should give me a little bit of noise isolation from the chassis, so we'll see. The highway is just through the trees. I'm almost back to it. This is amazing here. I'm not used to that. It's usually one road that maybe branches, but this is the way I went the first time I came up here, and I'll show you how much of a bad time it was. So this is pretty muddy where the mud puddles are. See, there's some mud on the side there. That was a branch. Plastic. Looked like part of a door. I wonder if they're gonna clear some of the trees off the side of the trail here. Tree probably is dead. last time I was up here, I was being a little too enthusiastic. It was the very end of spring, and it was raining for basically the last time of the season. And I was kind of flying through here, which I very much do not advocate ever doing. But I essentially came up over this little hill here, and then I started just sliding. And it's really not bad now, but I slid from pretty much here all the way down to the fence, around the turn a little bit, and I got stuck in the mud. And then when I was coming out, I got it unstuck without getting out of the vehicle, but there's some ruts on the right there. I slid all the way down through there, and I had just no traction. These tires are not off-road tires. They are inexpensive road tires, all seasons. So yeah, I just about hit the fence a little further up, and I got kind of not really high-centered, but you know, I got stuck out here. Right now the road is pretty solid, so I'm not having any difficulty getting out. I'm not sure what this is. If this is private property, it needs to be marked. I think there's a camping area kind of on the high rear brakes. There's a camping area kind of behind me here. There's a little turnaround loop. I'm guessing that fence denotes private property, but I don't know. Yeah, that on the right there that just loops around, or I turn around. But it's like someone plowed this. Oh, those are four-wheelers. Four-wheeler quad tracks. But yeah, that's one big reason I don't advocate freaking flooring it out here. Even if you know the road, the conditions might be different, and you might find yourself in a world of trouble. Either stuck or legally, or both. I'm also not very used to mud. The roads up behind Mount Ashland are, when they're wet, they're generally not mud. The soil is the wrong type of composition for mud up there. Another thing I usually do when I'm exploring off-road is I'll kind of look and see, is this a main road when it branches? Like I went down what I would call a side road. It's less flat, it's less traveled, it's less, you know, it's more narrow, deeper ruts. It's less maintained. I call that a side road. I'm now going back out again because I'm still, you know, exploring. I have time left. I'm going to use it. Take a quick pause here so I can clean my windshield. I think I got some mud in the camera frame there. Sorry. On the right there looks like what might be a campsite or something. Again though, this is a winter use area, so there's a chance that you're not allowed to camp up here. I don't know what entity owns this land, but it's obviously open to the public right now, so yet again, I would call the left side there kind of a side road, and then the right side the main road. I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes. Smells like WD-40. And then again here, I went right last time. I think this was the one that was super narrow. Closed. Nope, that was a different one. again, this was hard to tell. Is this one the main road or is the other one the main road? Again, though, I think this is, all of these are all giant loops. I got water running down on the driver's side. And yeah, that's a nice way to explore, is to pick all the main roads and then kind of learn those. And then eventually you can start going down the side roads, if they even go anywhere. This looks pretty muddy here too. I'm gonna guess that this is passable, but like an inch of rain and this will just be just completely slick, nasty mud. And I had no trouble with traction at all right there. So this is one of the little things that you run into with these off-road areas, is a main looking road can turn into a pair of ruts through the forest real quick. Most of this here is from runoff eroding the road. It's also really steep. So I would definitely say this is more of a side road than a main road, just for how, oh man, this might be impassable, my poor little Subaru here. Yep, I don't have the angles to get over that. I mean, I could try, but I don't want to tear up my stuff. I'm not even in gear going down here, it's so steep. There's a little spot to turn around right behind me. Bypass, and they blocked it. So yeah, that's kind of the stuff that you'll run into on these roads from time to time. If I had a Jeep Wrangler, I could probably make it over that, but there's a good chance I'd high center the Subaru trying it. It's got a long wheelbase compared to a Jeep Wrangler. And I don't really have any skid plate. I don't have any skid plates on this, so, you know, it is what it is. So this road would probably be impassable by a sedan or a minivan. Anything other than, you know, like Jeeps, 4x4 trucks, and lifted off-road capable vehicles. This is a no-go for you. I think I had only 2 tires on the road for a moment there. Yep. I want to see. Yeah, I've only got 3 tires on the road, and only 2 of them have any weight on them. That's not going to hurt anything unless I leave it there for a couple of months. Yeah, this is pretty slippery. I've got plenty of ground clearance. My WRX though, it had a stock suspension. Keep in mind, I'm freaking crazy. I would have tried it in a WRX. I would have turned around probably before this one, but and it's funny because I never got the WRX stuck. Even in the snow, I never got it stuck. I got this thing stuck. I mean, I had to rock it out. But then again, I'm running some of the worst tires for off-road. All season, cheap tires for on-road. If I had some, they do make them for this vehicle. They're a little bit taller than stock and they're a little narrower. I don't get it, but you know, these tires have an issue with tread. I'm gonna go back the other outbound way. These tires' tread is getting wrecked. I noticed when I rotated them, so I'm probably gonna have to replace them soon anyway. So I might as well get some off-road tires. They're double the cost of the regular on-road tires, but I don't care. I'll get an alignment at the same time, and then they'll last longer. I think they're a little heavier, which doesn't really bother me in this because it's turbo. My last one was non-turbo, and I was running some ultra-high performance summer tires on it, and they were an inch wider than stock. They're also meant for SUVs and light duty trucks, and they just were so heavy. They were 10 pounds a tire heavier than the stock tires. And that thing had no chance with those tires on it. It wouldn't accelerate going up hills at all. And even on this vehicle, those same wheels and tires, I had trouble going up long steep hills because they were just so heavy. These are the same weight as stock tires were, and I have a set of snow tires for the winter time that are actually, I think, 3 pounds a tire lighter than stock, and I have those on a set of WRX wheels. So I have the 16-inch Legacy GT 18-spoke snowflake wheels right now on it. And my plan is to get a set of 17-inch wheels, probably from a Crosstrek, and put some ultra high performance summer tires on those wheels. I generally don't like putting bigger wheels on a vehicle because I think it hurts the looks and it hurts the performance, and they're heavier and etc. But unfortunately, I cannot find ultra high performance summer tires for a 16-inch wheel on this vehicle anymore. Times a changing. I'm gonna go left again here. Well, left instead. I went right last time, and that was kind of exciting. I'm gonna try and kind of stick to the main road. That's one thing you'll find about Subarus if you take them off paved roads like this, is if you're trying to keep your speed reasonable because oncoming traffic could be a problem. If it's steep, second gear is too tall, and then first gear is like too short, so you're constantly fighting to find which gear you want to use. My WRX had longer gears than this thing did, and it was even worse. But this I still have trouble with sometimes. The WRX also didn't actually make boost until 2500 RPM. I mean, it made like 5 to 10 pounds before then, but it didn't really move the vehicle. It only had a 2-liter in it. And this has a 2.5 turbo motor in it. And it has the same turbo. And so this thing, I have it tuned so that it pushes 17 psi at 2200 RPM. And before that, it will actually make boost, but I'm worried about the bearings in the motor, and I do sometimes end up at high throttles at low RPM just because off-road, and so I have it set up so that it'll only run like 6 pounds of boost under 2000 RPM. And I mean, if I changed that, I could get usable boost and torque out of this thing below 2000 RPM, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to destroy the motor in it. Going up hills, you know, trying to maintain 15 miles an hour, it's like first or second, it's kind of pushing the RPM high in first, and it's kind of lugging it in second. I'm hoping to get a new exhaust on this pretty soon. This 2.25 inch exhaust is fairly restrictive, and I'm gonna put a 3-inch with muffler and glass pack for reasonable sound. Alright, so that's kind of a side road there. It's amazing though how much difference an exhaust makes on these Subarus. That stock 2.25 or 2.5 tube on there is so restrictive. Even on a stock tune, you can feel how restrictive it is. You put a 3-inch exhaust on it, it just opens everything up, and then on a non-turbo vehicle, you really would never want to do that. You wouldn't want to put a, well, I mean, on a 4-cylinder, you wouldn't want to put a 3-inch exhaust on it. Yay! Road tease. Which way do we go? I'm gonna go uphill. Hopefully the camera picks that up, but the turbo actually makes about 7 pounds of boost at 1500 RPMs if you needed to. Like, I couldn't move up that little hill there unless it revved it really high if I didn't have the turbo on it. It's because how steep and heavy the vehicle is. I'm hoping that the 3-inch exhaust, even with a quiet muffler on it, will improve the turbo response and power and let me push it past. I feel really bad now because I like made a tinkle next to a tree, and there's like a freaking bathroom up ahead. I tinkled like 300 yards from a bathroom. Also, I've never really encountered this before, being out in the middle of the woods and come upon a bathroom. Oh, hello, this is paved. Unexpected. I'm actually really confused. I don't even know what to do now. Well, I have a landmark, the restroom thing. I guess I'll just go down the paved road. Sorry, my tweeter is rattling and it's driving me crazy. Calling this road paved is mostly true. It's a very, very, very old pavement. if you go exploring a lot off-road, is your wonderful vehicle that doesn't have any rattles will suddenly start developing them. Yeah, when I was younger, when I was in high school, Colin McRae was still rally racing, and he had to deal with Codemasters for video games, so he had Colin McRae Rally, and I had a friend who was super hardcore into that. Well, not hardcore, but he was super into that game. And I got a copy of it and played the hell out of that game. And that's when I learned about turbo cars. And I started realizing that I really wanted a turbo car. And I wanted a Subaru, because Subarus were actually pretty cool back then. And right about the same time, they brought the WRX to the United States. And people went crazy for it. It was a really cool car, but it was expensive. 30-something thousand back in 2002. And I couldn't afford one. And as time went on, in about 2005, when the Legacy GT came around, the Turbo Legacy and the STI, well, STI was 2004 in the US, but we also got the Legacy GT, and I went down to the Subaru dealer and I test drove one, a Legacy GT. It was a white sedan with an automatic, because that's the only one that would let people take test drives in. And, you know, I was interested in it as a daily driver, not as something that I wanted to go scare the sales guy's life out of them with. So I was driving it normal and took it on the freeway and, you know, went around town a little bit. And went to go see if I could afford it. And back on Dead Indian. But for the record, I did not name Dead Indian Memorial Highway. That's like its actual name. So please don't assume I'm being racist or anything, because I'm not. I don't think it has a highway number. Buck Prairie Crossroads Ski Trailhead. Ah, so this is winter and summer use. So, I took that the Legacy GT for a test drive, and I drove it nice and reasonably, and, you know, the sales guy white-knuckled it until he realized that I wasn't just some loser that wanted to get some kicks in someone else's vehicle. And he relaxed, and then he told me about the features, and he had me get on the freeway and floor it, you know, so I could feel the power, which I was going to do anyways, but, you know, getting on the freeway and flooring it is reasonable. Flooring it to like 90 miles an hour in traffic is not. So I got to experience that, and I told him it was a nice car and I was going to go talk to the bank, and, you know, I did. I wasn't going to buy that specific one. I wanted a stick shift. And like 2 or 3 days later, I was driving. I was working in a car dealer at the time, and they had me take a car down to the body shop, and there was that Legacy GT that I test drove. It was totaled. The dealer never even sold it. Someone took it out for a test drive that shouldn't have, and rear-ended somebody else with it, and the front end of it was gone. But I had a Legacy at the time. It was hey, someone's following me. It was a 95 Legacy L. Nothing special about it. And brakes went on that getting on the freeway, and I totaled it. And I got another Legacy, a Legacy L. It was a sedan. It was green. It was both of them had 5 speeds. Actually, I should just say everything I've owned has had a 5-speed, except one vehicle had a 4-speed manual in it. I'm gonna let this car go by because I'm probably holding them up. Yeah, they're going a lot faster than I was. So I had a Legacy L sedan. It was a 2000, and I beat the crap out of that car. I took it up in the mountains, and maybe I'll even go find the spot, but yeah, I was going really fast on a dirt road that I knew really well. And there had been a washout, a little bit of flooding, and it washed the road out a little bit. The road was still there, but the grade dropped about 4 foot. I was going 80 plus, came around the corner, and then realized, oh crud, that washout's right up ahead. And I hit the brakes, but it was way too late, and I went off the drop at about 60 miles an hour. And for a split second, all 4 tires were hanging free in the air. And then I landed, and it was actually really painful. I laughed, but it was painful. And I immediately shut the engine off and pulled it over because I thought I ripped the oil pan out of it. So I jump out of it, crawl back to where I landed, and I left a couple of gouges in the road surface, and they were quite deep. And I crawled underneath it, and there's nothing leaking, so I thought I got away scot-free. I ended up actually destroying the fuel pump, and I put a 4-gallon dent in the gas tank. But I ended up trading that one in for a 98 Legacy GT, non-turbo, but it had the 2.5 in it. And it was a wagon, it was green, it had 80,000 miles on it when I got it, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely pristine. It had all the options and the features except the leather seats, which I was grateful for. I hate leather seats. But it was untouched, not a dent or scratch in the paint. And I took good care of that car. And while I owned it, I bought my first turbo car. 1983 GL Turbo with 298,000 miles on it. Calling it a pile would be an insult to piles. I didn't drive it much. Someone up in Portland was interested in it, and I literally went down and put gas in it. And on the way home from putting gas in it, the motor hydraulicked or something let go in it, and it made the biggest, longest cloud of smoke I ever saw in my life. And then it never ran again. I had it towed home, and then I had it crushed into a cube. And it's funny because when the tow truck came to pick it up, I got my last little thing out of the interior. I shut the door, and the window fell down into the door and shattered. So, that just kind of indicates what a pile it was. And I kept the Legacy GT. It has started having some problems. The air conditioner died in it, and I was having one of those, those moments where you're really mad at your parents. And I went up to Portland with a friend of mine, and I just happened to be looking at cars, and there was a 2002 WRX wagon for sale at a car lot. And I bought it. I traded my Legacy GT in, and I did it just to spite my parents. It was low miles for the time. It was like 65,000 miles, I think. And I drove that thing until it had... the Legacy GT that I traded in for, it had over 190,000 miles on it when I traded it in. I drove that WRX for, I think, 8 years. And it had 180,000 miles on it when it got taken by the bank, because the bank got greedy and it bit them. They took it as a part of my bankruptcy. They took it because they wanted more than it was worth. I even told them that. They didn't care. They cared when they thought they were going to get $5,000 out of it and couldn't even wholesale it. Then they sent me a bill, and I sent that to my bankruptcy lawyer. My bankruptcy lawyer sent them a letter, and then they told me to disregard that bill. That's how that worked. Don't ever assume that's going to happen to you, though. If you get a car repoed, don't assume that you can have a lawyer get you out of it. I'm a special case, apparently. So I was without a car for a little while, and I ended up getting a Subaru Baja Sport. And sport should never be applied to a vehicle that isn't sporty. And the Subaru Baja Sport is not sporty at all. I don't even call it sport-like or sport-ish. I would call it Subaru Baja L for lump. I digress. I traded that in for this, which has been a nightmare. And I would not suggest to anyone that they get a used Baja ever. They're too old now, and they're all beat up. This one's no exception. But yeah, this one got trashed by, I think a teenager owned it, and they trashed it. I don't know why they stopped. They could have kept going. The road's wide enough. Finally we come to the end of the pavement. I really want to know where this goes. Trudge. I'm going to go right. I'm going to go explore until this is either impassable or it branches more than twice. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to turn right and go the way that I was already going, because the pavement keeps going there. So yeah, don't ever buy a used Baja. They're all trashed. And it's kind of sad. I've never owned anything but a Subaru, and until this last pair of vehicles, I thought they were wonderful. At least the older ones. But now they're all falling apart to the point where they're not really worth investing money in. Unless you can get a super low mileage, like grandma-owned car. I wouldn't even touch it. And I don't like the new Subarus. I mean, they're nice, but I think it was in 2010 or 2012. Maybe it was sooner than that. Subaru pulled out of the WRC. And yeah, it had to be in 2012. And when they pulled out of the WRC, they stopped being a rally car manufacturer. And the 2010 STI was, you know, you could buy one that had been modded to the Group N specifications, or Group A, whatever they're called now, and you could literally buy a rally car. And then when Subaru pulled out of the WRC, they stopped doing that. So now, if you want to run a rally car in like Road America or something, you have to buy a street car and then modify it yourself. You can't buy a pre-modified Group N or Group A or whatever it's called rally car. And they kind of lost the spark that made the Subarus kind of cool. They still make the STI and they still make the WRX and the Forester Turbo, and those are still interesting cars, but they're not the same as they were before. 2020 Forester, I wouldn't take it out here, turbo or non-turbo. It just doesn't, I don't think they're really built strong enough to do that. And the STI and the WRX, they're sports cars that are meant to be able to go on dirt roads. But I wouldn't take one on a dirt road anymore. Like a 2008, 2010 STI, yeah, I'd throw a stiffer, taller suspension on it, take it off-road. But I wouldn't with, 2014 or 2015. They lost the spark that made them special. I don't like the new Subarus. I don't really like the old ones anymore. I think, as much as I hate Chrysler, I think I'm going to have to get a Jeep. I'd intended to have moved up already. It's freaking November now. I'd meant to move to Wyoming by now. I'd intended to have some other stuff by now. This exploration channel was meant to be one of 3 channels. I'd meant to I wanted to purchase a bolt-action rifle and kind of document my experience learning how to shoot, and get a cat and make some cat videos, because that's like the reason the internet exists, but I haven't been able to move yet, and I'm being delayed now until spring, which is, it is what it is. And I've had more opportunities to make exploring Southern Oregon videos, but I'd meant to transition over to exploring Wyoming's roads. I should probably make the channel so no one snipes it from me. But I can adapt, and one of the adaptations I was planning on doing is, if I hadn't been able to move by now, is to get the rifle. Well, thanks to COVID, I can't. Why? Because they're sold out everywhere. And even if I could get one, I can't get ammo. Ammo is sold out everywhere. So, and I think it's a combination of people. When you live out in the backcountry, or you live in a town that has easy access to the backcountry, and you can't work because your job's shut down, and you can't do anything else, and you get bored of your video games, what are you gonna do? You're gonna grab your gun and go out and shoot it. And I think that's why a lot of these ammunitions are sold out, is people just want to go out and get some trigger time in because they have nothing better to do. And guns are sold out for the same reason. People that, I think these theories about the world ending and the apocalypse coming and all that stuff, I think that's mostly crap. You're not gonna go to the gun store and buy a $700 bolt-action rifle for home defense. You're an idiot if you did. You need a handgun for home defense. Guess what's not sold out at the store? Handguns. Guess what is sold out at the store? Bolt-action rifles. Granted, it is cheaper and easier to make handguns than it is bolt-action rifle. Oh no, maybe not easier, but it is cheaper because smaller material. Alright, back to the road. Do I want to go up or down? I'm going to go up. It looks more beat up than the left. It looks like a side road, but we're here to explore. So, back to guns. that's my theory about what's going on, is people are bored and they want to do something, and buying, bolt action rifle is you're not gonna, if you had a closet with a gun locker in it, and you had a rifle, bolt action rifle, and then you had a semi-auto rifle, and then you had, say, like an assault style rifle like an AR-15 or AK or something, and you had some handguns like 9mm or something, and the zombie apocalypse comes, I think that the bolt action rifle would be the last option that you would go for. I'd go for a shotgun, probably. Everything I've ever learned from all those zombie apocalypse animes and TV movies or whatever, it's been shotgun is the way to go. But it sucks because it's hindered me in my YouTube endeavors, because I can't get the equipment that I want to go out and make the videos. Not to mention, this GoPro really is a steaming pile. The quality is just potato. And I'm hopeful that I can find some tips or tricks soon that will enable me to improve my quality here. I'm trying to lower frame rate, see if that helps. I don't think it will, but we'll see. I tried 4K, and I haven't even edited a video yet, because editing is a pain. See, that's another thing here, is if I get people actually interested in my stuff and watching this and supporting me, and I can get $300, I will buy a license for DaVinci Resolve 16 Professional, the full featured version of it, because I can literally buy a potato laptop that just happens to have a Thunderbolt 3 port on it. I mean, it wouldn't be a potato then, it would have to be kind of mid-high end anyways, but literally buy a potato laptop with Thunderbolt 3 port on it and an external GPU, and I could freaking edit video on it in a fraction of the time that my Xeon does. Is this a side road? No, it is not. That is... Yes, it is a side road, but that one's like not one I'm going to even try. But yeah, heck, if I had that $300 key right now, and I could edit using my GPU instead of my CPU, that alone would cut a lot of time off the editing. But I put up a preview video that's not listed. If you want the link, put in the comments. I might list it as it's labeled as a preview video. It's a uncut, just straight shot video. Was that in the Applegate? No, that was on Colstein Road. That was the first shot on the Colstein Road. I started in Ashland. It's an hour and 47 minutes long, and that video took like 6 or 7 hours to edit, or to render, and it's the render time that's killing me. And if I had the key for Resolve, I could render on my GPU instead of on my CPU, and even my old gaming rig would be able to do that video in a tiny fraction of the time that it took me. I still have all the project files for that, so I could re-render that on GPU as like a benchmark. None of my other videos should be that long, although this one I think is going to be longer. Yeah, can you tell this isn't scripted? Alright, splitting the road. Which way do I go? There's a warning sign here. Oh, buried electrical cable. I'm not going to have any trouble with that. I'm going to go right. I think I'm going to flip around at the next split in the road, unless it's obvious one is a side road and the other is not. But yeah, I think the 6 hours that it took me to do that hour 45 project would be reduced to about 30 minutes. And I'm still a super noob with DaVinci Resolve. Is that a mailbox? Wow, this is a big multi-way intersection here. What the heck? Oh, it's a takeout box. Classy. And see, there's one thing I don't like about firearm owners, and that is the ones that like to go shoot up the signs. And it's haha funny when you do it and all, but someone has to come out and replace that sign, and that costs money and time. So I don't do that kind of crap. I'm gonna shoot paper, maybe some intentionally purchased steel plates. But yeah, this YouTube endeavor has cost me more than I was expecting. And not just, in money, but in time. I knew that video editing and rendering was going to be time intensive, but it's more time intensive than I had anticipated. If I didn't have my Xeon and I was still using my old i5, I would be even more up the creek on the time. It would take twice as long. I have 8 threads at 4 gigahertz to play with, and before I had 4 at 3.3 gigahertz. So each thread does the same amount of work. And then the frequency doesn't really affect the speed that much. Actually, I should say it was 8 threads at 3.6 gigahertz and then 4 at 3.1, because my board doesn't want to let my CPU run turbo that long. And no, I have enabled all-core turbo. So that one took me a long time to figure out how to do, because my motherboard is so old. My motherboard is so old that I have 2 USB 3 ports and a USB 3 header. And I have the first chipset that Intel ever offered with USB 3 support. And it only drives 2 of those USB ports. The other 2 were driven by an add-on chip that Gigabyte added onto the board. So that's how old my system is. It's as old as USB 3 is. Not 3.1, USB 3.0. So, yeah, I'm hoping to upgrade my gaming rig to a AMD Ryzen 9 3900X 3600 what is it? I think it's a 8-core 16-thread CPU, and it turbos up to 4.2 or no 4.6. So that would just the CPU by itself would cut my rendering times massively. But I could actually get better rendering times on my current rig, but I don't want to spend $300 on a DaVinci Resolve license. I don't want to buy it because I don't know if this YouTube thing's going to even work out. And I'm hoping too that if I end up moving to Wyoming and I can get the job that I want, that I'll be able to get a pickup truck instead of this, Subaru. It's technically a pickup truck anyways, but it's all-wheel drive with the same limited slip center diff as the Forester and, you know, Legacy and whatnot. And it's supposed to have a rear LSD as well, but I don't think this one does, or it doesn't work. When I was playing around on that road earlier, and I tried backing up, and it just spun the tires because the front right tire and the rear left tire weren't on the ground anymore. The LSD should have been able to move me back a little bit, although I might have spun the two tires that had traction because I was trying to go up a pretty steep hill there. So I want to get a real truck that has 4x4 in it instead of all-wheel drive. Although the FJ Cruiser is kind of neat. It has all-wheel drive. It has a torsion center diff. But when you want to go off-road, you can actually lock the center diff and turn it into 4x4. I think it has 4 low as well. Well, I'm up here exploring. Let's go down another road. This is the last one, though. I'll have to take a shortcut back out to the highway and head home. I think I'll go right here. Sad thing is that if I end up getting a truck with 4x4, unless it's a diesel, it's not going to be, well, I could get a F-150, but, and the camera doesn't really pick it up, but the turbocharger in this thing is loud, and you can hear it when you're driving, and I like it like that. The F-150s, they have these stupid baffles on the intake, so you can't ever hear the turbo in them. And some of the diesels do too, but those are super easy to remove on the diesels. I love the sound of a turbo. It's just gets my blood pumping, you know. Makes me feel alive. I guess my point too about DaVinci Resolve is that if people want to support the channel, then I'm more than interested in putting that money back into the channel itself, into growing it and improving the quality, getting rid of this potato camera and getting something that can be car mounted that just has better quality. I'm super disappointed with the GoPro. This is like a B-roll camera only. If I got a decent camera for the front, I'd take the GoPro and I'd chuck it on the liftgate and do B-roll shots and exhaust sounds out the back type thing, you know, or put it on the side for alternative POV shots or whatever. But the quality on it's so bad, I just can't even justify doing that. I don't want to spend $1,000 on a camera though. I've also thought about getting a gimbal mount. Ooh, there we go. I was wondering if I'd find something like this. It's a dead end. That's pretty cool. I was even thinking about it just before I came off this road, but this area seems to be suffering from never-enditis. The roads just go on and then branch and interconnect so much that they never technically end, but this one did, so that's a nice place maybe to go camping. I wouldn't camp here now though. The weather's terrible for camping. can also tell that this road doesn't connect to anything because of how tall the grass is in the middle of the lane. When roads don't get traveled very often, they begin to grow up in the middle. I don't care about my front bumper. The paint's trashed on it anyways, but that was pretty short. Maybe I should jaunt down one more road. Nah, I'm gonna head back the longer way, actually. Yeah, I always wanna... the Baja Sport was a mistake when I bought it. I shouldn't have bought it. Should have kept looking, save my money. But you know, I got some dream vehicles. I mean, my ideal would be to have an off-road vehicle and an on-road vehicle. Then I'd have a nice experience when on-road and a nice experience when off-road. And a Subaru is actually kind of a nice median there. You can do both. This thing will keep up with most vehicles on road. If I can get the exhaust sorted out and the boost turned up a little more and a more stable tune on here, it'll keep up with most other vehicles. You know, Corvettes and stuff like that, it's not going to happen. But you know, a Corvette would not be able to keep up with me off-road either. But then, you know, there used to be a company called Scorpion that made lift kits for Subarus, and they went out of business a while back, or at least the lift kits stopped being produced. But they made a 2-inch kit. Lift kit for most Subarus, and they made a 4-inch kit for the Forester, and they made a 3-inch and a 5-inch kit for the Baja. And if I could get a stronger center diff, Subaru makes them, and some upgraded suspension components, I could make this thing more capable off-road, but it would be less capable on-road. It's kind of in that sweet spot where you can still keep a WRX in sight, but you can massively outpace them off-road. Well, you can go over rougher terrain than a WRX, so, you know, it's a trade-off. But I guess what I really want is a diesel 4x4 for mild towing duties and off-roading, and not like super hard trail stuff, but you know, just off-roading. And then I'd have a turbo BRZ or an M5 or something for on-road driving. Yeah, I love turbos, but V8s are pretty cool too. I mean, if I ever got bored with a M5, I could always throw a turbo on it. And I want an older one with a V8. I don't really like the V10 that much. Kind of like Subaru, I think BMW lost their way a little bit about the same time. I like the turbo BRZs too. Those are a lot of fun. They're pretty fun to supercharge too. I probably would have got a BRZ instead of this thing, except they can't go off-road worth crap. They're rear-wheel drive and they're much, much, much lower. I mean, you can still take them off-road. I think one would have no trouble on this kind of road, but... And, you know, that's the thing too, is I've not really driven rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive stuff that much. So when I do have to drive something rear-wheel drive, other than our work vans, because they're a little different, but like I drove a Mustang when I worked at the car dealer, and it was raining, and it was amazing to me how little throttle it took to spin the tires on it. You know, I had my WRX at the time. My WRX made more power than that Mustang did, and I could literally floor it in first gear in my WRX in a turn and keep traction, whereas the Mustang, when going straight at a fraction of the throttle, it would just spin the rear tires off. And it even had better, tires on it than my WRX did. Maybe I'll get a Jeep and you can turbo Jeeps. I'd turbo a Jeep if I had it. I would not run it stock, or I'd put an LS1 in there and LSX and turbo it. Nothing says burning rubber like an LS7 with a giant turbo on it in a Jeep. I got there. I was sideways the whole way, but I got there. I got no tires on the back anymore, but I got there. There was a turbo Jeep for sale in Bend. It even had a stick shift in it, but I didn't jump on that because it was really expensive for how old it was. I think it was a 4-liter too. So yeah, there's always options to consider. I'd like to get something that I could drive in the wintertime in Wyoming first, though, because that's more important. Then get the rear-wheel drive summer toy after. Wyoming has a lot of roads to explore. Most of them, though, are going to be off-road. Jeep would be more fun. I'm going to have access to a Jeep when I move there, though. So I think I should get a truck. I would be kind of interested, too, in doing some off-road recovery work. I've always had an interest in recovery work in general, but off-road recovery seems more challenging even than on-road recovery. I watch Matt's off-road recovery, and I watch Ron Pratt. He does larger, heavy-duty, semi-truck recovery stuff. I mean, he does cars too. They both have YouTube channels. But, it's interesting how different the two worlds are. They're doing the same work, but just in different places. With different equipment. And, Matt, for Matt's Off-Road Recoveries in Arizona, they go up into Utah and down into, I think they've done New Mexico and Colorado a few times. And they're doing a lot of dunes stuff, a lot of sand. And he uses a Jeep Cherokee for that. And it works real well for him. And you see him pulling diesels and stuff out of the sand all the time. And that makes sense to me. But when you're on roads like this, like if a car slid off the side here, you wouldn't want a Jeep to recover that. You would want something a little more heavy duty. And I mean, they probably get a rollback in here. It's also kind of funny too, because I watched that recovery that Matt did recently, and they used 2 trucks to get this thing off the side of a cliff. And the whole time, I'm like thinking, why aren't you using a second snatch block? I don't know if they had one or not. That whipped cream? Yeah, it was whipped cream. Either that or cheese in a can, but it's usually yellow. That was red. That was whipped cream. But yeah, I was like, use a second snatch block, and then finally the Toyota just drove up off the side of the road. I'm like, oh, okay. He wedged it up against a tree. I'm like, that works, I guess. Yeah, someone shot that sign there. Don't do that. It's not cool. It's not funny. I mean, if it's an accident or something, whatever, but don't do it intentionally. I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult, I think, to get into off-road recovery. You need some equipment. Snatch blocks, tow ropes, cable, winches, maybe an underreach trailer. I don't know, but have equipment that maybe can get them out. Whereas, you know, I tend to go solo because I don't know anyone local that really wants to do this. Wait, let me rephrase that. I don't know anyone local, so I'm usually either solo. Ah, they're a little chipmunk. Those are pretty hardy little critters. They live in places where water is impossible to find for half the year or more. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take the quick way back. I stayed out too long. Pretty out here though. You can see how bad the summer was to all these plants though. Half of them are dead or dying. It's kind of the end of the season now for them too. But yeah, even after rain, everything is still dead. Well, not everything, but the stuff that is. English is hard, okay? Leave me alone. Channeling a little J there. I'll go quiet again once I get out on the road because I'm pretty hard to hear when I'm talking on the road, just from the vibrations from the camera. I'm like halfway in between Ashland and White City, so I don't think it actually makes any difference which way I turn when I get back to the main road. This is going to be like a 3-hour-long video. Oops. Oh well. Ah, here comes an FJ Cruiser. I see a spot up ahead where I can pull over. Road's wide enough here. Yeah, they got room. I couldn't tell how wide it was down there. But they would be able to get by without scratching up their paint here. Actually went off the road there, but it didn't get caught, so whatever. Actually, I think it would take longer if I went in towards Lake of the Woods. I'll go back towards Ashland. There's a big road over there that isn't the highway. It's dirt. Oh, it was wider here. Oh well. Couldn't tell from back there. Yeah, there's a bunch of YouTubers that I watch. I'm not going to link them in the channel, but I might link them in the video description. I have my own private, personal YouTube account with all my subscriptions on it. And it's, you know, one of those things that I'm kind of learning as I do this is I want to keep those two separate. I mean, I might make myself a moderator or whatever. Thought that was a bear for a moment. It's just a log. I think next time I come up here, I'm going to try this road on the left. I came up from the right, and I could go back that way, but that's another 15-20 minute drive, and I need to get home, so that'll be another difference too once I move to Wyoming, is when I do videos I won't have time constraints for when I can be out and about, so I can go out at dawn and come back after dusk, I'll just have to stop for food, food breaks. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I found this road. This is pretty unique. Oh, that is Dead Indian that was over there. Curves all the way over. Looked like it was dirt, though. Another thing you got to be wary of on this type of road that doesn't get maintained is that back just now I saw a large hole in the road itself, and the roads, when they get old like that, can get a crack or a hole in it, and once it gets a hole in it, heavy rain can come through. They actually get heavy rain here, and it will wash away soil underneath the road, and it'll create a sinkhole. So this right here used to be a sinkhole that got filled in, my guess. This isn't a main road. It's not even really a side road. It's an access road, so I don't think they're ever going to fully repave it again. They've never even chip sealed it, so it's not a maintained road, like in the sense of a highway. Oh, tired. To do a medical thing tomorrow. It is Sunday tomorrow, but I still have to do it tomorrow, so I will probably not be making any videos tomorrow. I think Sundays are going to be my editing days, and it's frustrating to me that I can't get several projects going and then queue them up and then render them all at night. Oh well, I'll figure that out eventually. In the meantime, I am going home.